My name is Eli Barber. I'm 36. I manage a maintenance crew at one of the biggest public high schools in upstate New York. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I know how to fix a boiler, paint a wall, stop a leak, and deal with teenagers who think they're invisible. My wife, Tessa, is 32. She works front desk at a dental clinic 2 towns over, where she tells patients everything will be fine and smiles through gum rot and screaming toddlers. We've been married for 6 years, at least on paper. In truth, we were strangers long before I found the texts. There's a kind of silence that happens over dinner when love is gone. Not tension, not anger, just the dull clink of forks, like nails tapping on an empty coffin. That's what we had. No fights, no passion, just flat words and cold rice. So when she started getting stuck at work twice a week, I didn't protest. When she began spending Saturdays at her cousin's, I didn't ask. And when she locked her phone like it was nuclear launch codes, I didn't press. I let her bury herself. Because I already knew. I found out on a Wednesday. She'd left her laptop open. Not the work one, the personal one she thought I didn't know the password to. She'd used our wedding date. The irony wasn't lost on me. There was a folder on her desktop called Invoices, but inside were no spreadsheets, just screenshots, texts, photos, and one video filmed in some beige hotel room I'd never seen, with her in a bra I didn't recognize and a man I didn't know. But who she looked at like he was made of God. Not like me. Not the way she hadn't looked at me in years. His name was Jonas Whitfield. Car mechanic. Divorced. Drove an old Dodge Charger with a rusted hood and muscles he liked to display in tank tops even in November. I'd seen him once at the supermarket. Tessa had said hi a little too brightly. Now I knew why. The texts went back 14 months. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning a life. I'll tell him after Christmas. He's not a bad guy, just boring. You make me feel alive again. And the worst one. He wouldn't even notice if I vanished. That one hit like a slow knife. I didn't throw the laptop. I didn't wake her. I didn't scream. I copied the entire folder onto a flash drive, labeled it J+T Forever, and put it in my work locker. And then, I smiled. Because I finally had something worth building. Not a marriage. A reckoning. See, the thing about being invisible to someone? It lets you move like a ghost. I started small. I changed how I touched her. No more affection. No more warmth. But just enough presence to keep her thinking I was still clueless. I stopped doing the laundry. Stopped fixing little things in the house. Let the sink drip. Let the mailbox squeak. Watched her begin to notice, like a queen wondering where her servants disappeared to. Then I started tracking Jonas. Not stalking, just collecting. Where he worked. Where he lived. What he drank. Who his ex-wife was. Where his son went to school on weekends. He liked poker nights, cheap beer, and bragging. He also had warrants. Misdemeanors. A bar fight. Some unpaid traffic citations. The kind of dirt you can't weaponize in court, but you can use to twist a little leverage. Especially if you know the right buttons. But I wasn't rushing it. The trick wasn't confrontation. It was contrast. I wanted her to feel safe, untouchable, like the lie had worked. So I bought her a necklace for Valentine's Day. A silver chain with a tiny compass on it. She cried when I gave it to her. I think she thought it was a goodbye gift in disguise. It was. Just not for me. The night it all began, the real beginning, was a Thursday. She was late getting home. Said she got caught in traffic. I'd made dinner. Chicken marsala, her favorite. She sat across from me, eyes tired, mouth tight. I watched her push mushrooms across the plate. You okay? I asked. She blinked. Yeah, just tired. I nodded, poured her wine. Love you, I said casually. She didn't answer for 3 seconds. Then she smiled, but not from the heart. Love you too. It was the last lie she'd ever tell me without consequence. Because I'd already scheduled the delivery. And she had no idea what was coming. Not yet. But it was going to be beautiful. Slow. Surgical. And it would taste exactly like the wine she was drinking. There's something poetic about watching someone lie while holding the truth in your pocket. That flash drive, the one labeled J+T Forever, never left my work locker. Every day at lunch, I'd take it out, plug it into an old school Chromebook I kept in the janitor's closet, and review the evidence again. Not to hurt myself. To remember exactly what kind of woman I was married to. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was the cruelty. The mockery. The way she said he'd never survive on his own. I wasn't interested in survival. I was interested in precision. Step 1 was Jonas's ex-wife, A woman named Krista Whitfield. I found her on Facebook. Still had his last name. Still bitter enough to keep the old photos tagged, even if her captions were razor blades. One message and a carefully worded tip, anonymously sent, was all it took. You might want to know who your ex is bringing around your son. Her name's Tessa Barber. She's married. There are photos. Krista responded in 2 days. She showed up at Jonas's garage one morning and made a scene loud enough that one of his mechanics filmed it. She screamed about whores around my kid, and maybe child services should know about this. That video ended up on TikTok, and that was the beginning of the unraveling. Tessa came home that night fuming. You wouldn't believe the day I had, she snapped. Some psycho showed up at Jonas's job and accused me of being a bad influence. Jonas? I asked, pouring tea like I hadn't just thrown the grenade. A coworker. I mean friend. A friend. She didn't look at me when she said it. And that was the first time I saw fear creep into her voice. Not guilt. Fear. Step 2 was Jonas's freedom, or rather, the lack of it. Using an old burner phone I'd used years ago to prank call my boss. Long story, I sent a tip to the county sheriff's office. Jonas Whitfield has 3 unpaid warrants. Seen at Malone's bar every Friday. Friday night, Jonas was picked up in front of half the town. Tessa found out the next morning. She was quiet all day. Didn't eat. Didn't make eye contact. Her phone barely left her hand. She was trying to get him out, I figured. But with no bail money, and a judge who didn't like repeat offenders, he sat for the weekend. She paced the kitchen like a lioness in a cage, still thinking she was the hunter, not the prey. I took her out that Sunday, drove her to Lake George, pretended I was trying to fix us, told her I'd been distant, that I wanted to reconnect. She cried again, told me I was too good, said she didn't deserve me. I agreed, then took a picture of her staring out at the lake, just as the sun hit her face. It wasn't for memory. It was for proof. I sent it anonymously to Jonas's burner number that night, with one line of text. She cried for me today. By Monday, Jonas was out. But something had changed. Tessa stopped talking about cousins. She got quieter, more present, overcorrecting. She started wearing my favorite perfume again. Made dinner twice that week. She thought she was winning me back. She didn't know the ceiling was already cracking above her. Then came the anniversary trip. I told her I'd booked a cabin upstate. Just the 2 of us. 3 nights. No phones. She lit up like I hadn't seen in years. Really? She whispered. After everything? Yeah, I said, smiling. After everything. What she didn't know was that I'd already packed her bag. Inside it? A single printed envelope. And nothing else. We left on a Friday. Drove 3 hours north. I was calm. She was jittery. I played our wedding playlist on the drive. She wiped her eyes twice. We arrived at a modest cabin on a hill. I'd rented it under a false name, cash only, no cameras. There was no food in the fridge, no decorations, just a key on the table and that envelope. She turned to me confused. Where's the stuff? I didn't answer. I just nodded toward the envelope. She opened it. Inside were 20 full-color printed screenshots of every photo, text, and time-stamped video she'd shared with Jonas. The look on her face? Like someone hit her with a frying pan full of regret. She didn't say a word, didn't ask how I got them. She just sat down slowly and whispered, "How long have you known?" I looked at her like she was a stranger in a burning house. Long enough to enjoy every second of what comes next. She begged. At first, gently. Then with more desperation. I can fix this. You're the only one I ever trusted. Don't ruin me, Eli. Please. I'll do anything. I smiled, and then said the one thing she didn't expect. You already did. Then I walked out, got in the truck, left her there, alone, 3 hours from town. No car, no cell signal, no lies left, just memories and silence. And she still didn't know that wasn't even the real revenge. That was just the overture. Tessa made it back to town Sunday night. She must have walked 2 miles down that empty road until she got signal, then called someone, probably her sister or one of the coworkers she hadn't yet lied to. By the time I got home, her car was back in the driveway. Lights off. No confrontation. Just silence, like she hoped if we didn't speak, none of it happened. She never asked how I got the photos. Never accused me of spying. She just carried guilt like wet laundry and waited to see how much I'd squeeze. But I didn't. I let her wonder. And in that wondering, she started to unravel. The next week, she tried being perfect. Cooked every night. Wore the earrings I bought her 2 anniversaries ago. Made those polite, Almost mechanical, "How was your day?" Comments like a woman reading lines from a script she forgot how to feel. I said little. I didn't need to. She was trying to salvage something with a man who'd already burned the blueprint. Here's what Tessa didn't know. She had more to lose than love. Tessa had a reputation. Not with me. With the town. Our town's small enough that everyone knows everyone, but polite enough to pretend otherwise. Tessa was the sweet front desk girl at Dr. Howland's Dental. She remembered birthdays, brought cupcakes, held babies while parents signed forms. Every patient over 50 adored her. And that was the pressure point. Because in places like ours, image is everything. So I created a fake email, used an old Hotmail address, named it TrueSyncer 1978, and sent a tip to Dr. Howland himself. "Hi, Doc. Thought you should know one of your staff might be using your office resources to meet up with married men. Check the office calendar cross-referenced with Jonas Whitfield's shop hours. Town deserves better." Attached was a photo of Tessa and Jonas outside his garage, time-stamped, cropped, but unmistakable. 2 days later, she came home early, pale, shaking. "I think I'm going to be let go." I looked up from my book. "Why?" She hesitated. "They're reviewing personal conduct issues." "Did you do something wrong?" She didn't answer. I didn't press. Let her choke on the question. 3 days later, she was officially fired. They let her resign gracefully, but the whispers began. Her cousin stopped coming over. A neighbor waved from farther away. Even the girl at the diner stopped asking, "Where's Tessa today?" And the best part? She had no idea it was me. But I wasn't done, because I knew what she feared most. It wasn't loneliness.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience, but we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
It was irrelevance. Tessa needed to be adored. She needed approval like oxygen. So I decided to take away every piece of identity that made her feel superior. I created a second anonymous profile on a local forum, Tri-County Voices, a place for residents to post recommendations, events, rumors. I posted a thread. "Warning, watch who you trust with your kids." Some of you may recognize this woman from Dr. Howland's dental office. She no longer works there. I suggest asking why. No names, no libel, just the truth. Protect your families. The photo was blurred just enough to dodge moderation rules, but sharp enough for anyone who knew her to know exactly who it was. The thread exploded. Comments ranged from "I knew something was off" to "She was always too flirty with the dads." All untrue, all devastating, and none of it traceable to me. That night, she cried in the bathroom with the door locked. I didn't knock. I just poured myself a whiskey and watched the night roll over our quiet little house like fog. She had burned a marriage. I was burning her legacy. But there was still one more piece left. Jonas. See, Jonas had made bail. He was back at the garage, quieter now, but still greasy and shirtless and angry. I paid a teenager I used to coach in Little League $50 to spray paint "Homewrecker" on the side of Jonas's Charger. It made the local paper, not front page, but page 5, right next to the ad for Dr. Howland's clinic. And Tessa? She saw it. She didn't cry that time. She just sat on the porch for 3 straight hours, eyes unfocused, holding a coffee that went cold in her hands. She looked like someone staring down a life they couldn't recognize anymore. A woman whose house hadn't caught fire, but who couldn't escape the smoke. That night, she asked me quietly, "Why didn't you leave me?" I took a long breath, looked her right in the eyes. "Because you wanted to be free," I said, "but not forgotten." Then I walked upstairs, alone, left her sitting there in the kitchen we used to laugh in, surrounded by everything she once believed she had. Except now, she had it with no one to share it. And I hadn't even touched her. Not once. Not in anger. Not in revenge. Just silence. The kind that fills a house like floodwater when every truth finally leaks through the walls. There's a point where someone stops asking if you'll forgive them and starts asking who else knows. That's where Tessa was now. Paranoid. Muted. Half herself. She paced through the house like a ghost wearing her own skin, waiting for someone to burst through the door and take what little was left of her name. But no one came, because no one had to. The ruin wasn't loud. It was daily, small, invasive, permanent. That was the design. 3 weeks after she lost her job, Tessa started driving out to neighboring towns. She applied at a vet clinic, a florist, even a car dealership. She never got callbacks, because I'd already sent a copy of her photo cropped from that hotel screenshot to every HR inbox in a 50-mile radius. No threats. No slander. Just the subject line. Thought you should see who you're hiring. I signed a concerned spouse. By now, she barely spoke at home. She stopped wearing makeup. Started sleeping in the guest room without being asked. Sometimes I'd hear her cry softly around midnight. She tried not to make noise. Out of shame, maybe. Or fear I'd remind her. You earned every decibel. One night, a Thursday, she knocked on my bedroom door. I opened it. She stood there in a sweatshirt 3 sizes too big, sleeves past her wrists, hair in a knot she hadn't touched in days. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded. She sat on the edge of the bed like she wasn't sure she was allowed. I know I don't deserve anything from you, she started. But I need to understand. Why didn't you just leave? I looked at her for a long time, then answered. Because you don't get to vanish with the story. She blinked. What? You spent over a year turning me into a footnote. I stayed so you couldn't rewrite the ending. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. I kept going. You called me boring. Said I wouldn't notice if you disappeared. You didn't cheat for love. You cheated for thrill. And when it stopped being fun, you were going to walk away like it was a bad Netflix show. Tears welled up. But I didn't stop. You wanted him. You wanted attention. You wanted control. And now you're here. With nothing. Silence. I leaned forward, voice lower. This isn't revenge, Tessa. It's clarity. I'm giving you what you always said you wanted. Freedom. Her hands trembled. She stood up slowly, nodding. I'm sorry, she whispered. And for the first time, I believed her. But it didn't matter. Not anymore. Because she was sorry for the consequences, not the crime. The next morning, she packed a bag. Didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask where she was going. She left her keys on the counter and closed the door gently behind her. Not slamming it. Not storming off. Just gone. Like a mistake that finally understood it couldn't be undone. 3 days passed. No calls. No messages. Then I got an email from her sister. No subject line. Just a single sentence. She's staying with me. Don't worry, I won't ask you to take her back. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. But I still had one last piece to set in motion. I'd waited to send it. Not out of hesitation. Out of timing. I wanted it to land when the silence turned to shame, and shame turned to realization. That moment came a week later. That's when I mailed the flash drive. Not to Tessa. To Jonas. Inside the envelope. Every photo. Every text. Every video. With a sticky note on top that read. Thought you should know who she really is when no one's watching. No signature. No return address. Just the final match dropped into the husk of a story they'd set on fire together. A few days later, I saw Jonas at the gas station. His car had a fresh dent in the side. His face looked tired. He didn't look at me. Just filled his tank and drove off with a cigarette in his mouth and no music playing. And Tessa? She tried texting one last time, 3 weeks later. I just want to know if you hate me. I read it twice, then deleted it. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because she no longer deserved one. Some people think revenge is a scream, a moment, a slap. But the deepest revenge is erasure, letting someone live long enough to understand they no longer matter, and that the silence they left you in it now belongs to them. I spot Jonas at the corner gas station early one Saturday morning, 2 days after he got the flash drive. He's crouched by the pump, shirt still greasy, jaw clenched around a cigarette. When I catch his eye, he darts his gaze away, as if noticing me will burn him. I linger long enough to watch him thumb through that envelope, then slide the drive into his glove compartment. His hands tremble. He leans back, helmetless, and exhales a plume of smoke that hangs like black cloud over his Charger's dinted hood. I don't need to follow him. Word travels faster than a Charger on a starving engine. By afternoon, I've heard enough whispers at the feed store and the barber shop to know what's happened. The flash drive landed at the sheriff's evidence vault, Jonas's warrants got reopened, and his bail has doubled. He vanished from the garage, no call, no message, leaving customers stranded and mechanics scrambling. His name is on everyone's lips, but few say it aloud. Meanwhile, Tessa is unraveling in a different way. I drive past her sister's house that evening and see her through a lit window, curled on the couch in a threadbare sweater, laptop open on her knees. She's scouring Craigslist and Indeed, but every lead ends the same: candidate declined, position filled, or the unspoken silence of no reply. She jumps at every car that slows outside the sister's yard, but never to the door. I don't gloat. I just keep the silence steady. It's the pattern I've learned to trust. Sunday, I take my routine hike up the old logging trail behind the school. The spring thaw has widened the creek, and I listen to the water rush over stones, carving new channels where it pleases. It reminds me that even the hardest wood yields under constant pressure. I collect a smooth stone, tuck it into my pocket as a reminder. Slow, deliberate strength. Back at home, the mailbox groans when I open it, still letting me know things are shifting. There's no mail for Tessa. No photos from admirers. No bills addressed to her. Just junk and business flyers. I toss them without a glance. On Monday, I catch a glimpse of Tessa at the grocery store. She's pushing a cart so empty it rattles. There's no makeup on her face, and her hair is plastered behind her ears. She glances down every aisle, as if hunting for reassurance in cans of soup and loaves of bread. When our eyes meet, she gives the smallest flicker of panic before she ducks behind the cereal shelves. I imagine her scanning the carton labels for secret messages, the way I once scanned her texts for signs of love. Tuesday, the local paper runs a thin column under Community Watch, a grainy photo of a Charger bearing the words Homewrecker in dripping red paint, posted outside Jonas's empty garage. The headline reads, "Town shocked by vandalism, warnings issued." The article speculates about if it's girlfriend retaliation or general mischief. It doesn't tie to me. I sip my coffee and let the paragraph settle in my chest, like bitter dregs. That night, at a half-empty kitchen table, I place dinner before an empty chair. My fork clicks against the plate. I don't call for Tessa. I don't wait for her. She texts me at midnight. I saw the article. What did you do? I stare at my phone until the screen times out. When I unlock it again, her message is gone. I delete the conversation entirely, removing even the ghost of her words. By Thursday, Jonas is back in town, stooped and silent, pushing me past old resentment into a strange kind of pity. I see him at the hardware store, hauling a bag of concrete mix. He nods once, curtly, then lets his shoulders collapse. I remember the way he smiled at Tessa in those screenshots, full of promise. Now it's gone, folded into an envelope stamped anonymous. Later, I drive past his garage. The door is closed, padlocked. Up for lease, sign swings crookedly from a nail. The town will fill that space soon. Someone else less complicated, less marked by scandal. That's how it works here. You take your turn, then you move on, and no one remembers the stain for long. But Tessa will. I know because the next morning, I find a letter slipped under my door. It's typed, no signature, but the font is unmistakable, Tessa's serif. It reads, "Eli, I'm sorry. You win. I leave next week. Don't follow me. Just let me disappear." It lands like a final exhale. I fold the letter and tuck it into my jeans pocket, next to the creek stone. I don't respond. I don't need to. Friday arrives with relentless brightness, as if the sun wants to spotlight endings. I park in our driveway before dawn and sit in the truck, listening to the engine tick. In the passenger seat sits Tessa's duffel bag packed, waiting for her to climb back into her life. The letter is in my pocket, folded to fit exactly in my palm. I stand and pull the duffel from the seat, feeling the weight of every zipper and seam. Inside, I find a silk scarf, 2 blouses, a paperback I once bought her on a whim. I carry it to the curb and set it beside the mailbox. There's a neighbor across the street trimming hedges. He pauses, watches, then resumes without comment. Nothing about this morning is dramatic. There are no tears, no accusations, just the quiet packing of loss. I walk back to the truck. My reflection in the window is unfamiliar, eyes hardened, shoulders broader, skin etched with lines I didn't notice before. Revenge has its own toll. I check my watch, 6:12 a.m. Too early for coffee shops, too late for solace. I climb into the driver's seat and take the creek stone from my pocket, roll it between my fingers. I remember how water carved its shape smooth and round. Time, pressure, consistency. That's how I'll heal. At 8, I drop the letter into the mailbox. I don't mail it, just let it rest there, a bookmark in the final chapter. I call the school and request a day off. The voice on the other end asks if everything is all right. I say, I need some time. And I mean it. I drive north on Route 9, watching the hills roll by, green with spring promise. At the overlook by Lake George, I pull off and sit on the guardrail. No one else is there. The lake shimmers like polished glass. I place the creek stone on the concrete and watch it catch sunlight. A memory washes over me. The night I planted the compass necklace in Tessa's hands, had tears in her eyes. I sold it as a farewell, but it was a promise to myself that I wouldn't lose my way. I let the wind carry a quiet benediction across the water. This is my freedom, too. My phone buzzes, a single text, safe travels. From Krista Whitfield, Jonas's ex. She found me through the league I coached. She doesn't ask for details. I type back, thanks. Then I set the phone aside. I close my eyes and feel the sun warm my face, hear the gulls cry overhead, smell pine and lake weed. In that stillness, I understand why silence is the deepest revenge. It's the space you carve out for yourself when everything that was false finally fades away. I stand, take a last look at the stone, and leave it as my marker, a simple truth shaped by constant current. I get back in the truck, turn the key, and head south toward a life that no longer needs witnesses to define it. And for the first time in a long time, I feel exactly where I belong.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.